Governor Spencer Cox of Utah signed a sweeping bill that pared back diversity, equity, and inclusion programs at the state's educational institutions and government offices, the latest state to take action amid the broader national backlash against such efforts. A question I've been asked since the murder of George Floyd sparked national protests is that if we've made it, if we've reached that tipping point, and it's all moving forward from here. I'm not sure such a tipping point exists, and even if it does, no, we haven't. Our theme is on a warning. In our last video, we covered reflection. It's about slowing down and respecting that reflecting is a key part of equity work. We covered the other 5 sections of the guidebook, including the introduction, current state, self, concepts, and preparation. Knowing what's happened before helps us be ready for what's to come. When we reflect on our department, our community, even our own personal journey, it offers clarity to what comes next. Before we take action, we have to cover some warnings. We do this in part as a matter of ethics. There are risks, there are potential sacrifices, and it's only fair to provide this warning to anyone who wants to jump in. It's also a matter of practicality. I want you to be successful. Part of that success is being ready for the challenges. It's knowing what we struggle against so that when things don't go our way, we're not surprised or taken off guard. We do not do equity work in a vacuum. I've said it time and time again. We're challenging the status quo. The status quo is strong. The status quo is resilient, and the status quo fights back. It really can fight back. Let's start at a basic warning. Some common questions I've received include, but aren't limited to, what does DEI stand for? What does it actually mean? What do you do? What does one even do for DEI work? The baseline awareness isn't there. It's hard to have a productive conversation on how to be more equitable when we haven't gotten to the point of what equity means, of that inequities exist, and that we can do something about it. Many people do not know one, let alone all the lessons in this series. Fair warning, if we're trying to bring others along, it means we're starting back at square one with context. We're ready to make the next step, and not everyone will keep up. A point will come where we need to make decisions, we need to make changes before people are fully on board, and it's on them to figure it out for themselves. Much of the series has talked about the status quo. That said, the needle is being pushed the other way too. There are individuals, groups, full institutions that want to roll back the rights that have been hard fought and hard won. Same-sex marriage, voting rights, these aren't guaranteed to last. Affirmative action was gutted decades ago, and even the shell of its former self is being challenged left and right. Remember storytelling? In some narratives, we are the antagonists. We're the ones who are ruining America, who are putting government where it doesn't belong. We get over racism if we'd only stop talking about race. Yada yada yada, the typical, don't listen to these people who say they want to help. They're the real villains. The point is, success is not a given. Oftentimes when we push, we're trying to preserve the recognition and dignity people have today. We're just holding ground to ensure that basic, fundamental rights are upheld and avoid having immigrants or the homeless or LGBTQ individuals or the scapegoat minority of the month suddenly the exception in that they don't deserve freedom, protection, democracy, because others say to hell with them. The pushback is real, and it's out in the open. Much of the series has sought to normalize equity work. It's a job. It's an effort. It's change just like any other. And every industry, every profession has its unique aspects. IT, there's unique things to it. HR, some special things there too. Police, construction, restaurants, running a small business selling handcrafted goods, all work has their unique qualities. For equity work, some of the more unique aspects include delving into our and other people's identities, their sense of belonging, the nature of community, justice or lack thereof, and deeply rooted and widespread prejudices. These are tough. It all hits hard. There will be bad days, weeks, months, even years as we contend with some very unfun, Very problematic stuff. And it makes it that much harder when we run into indifference, if not outright refusal. Here's just a handful of plausible scenarios we can and will come across. What happens when our boss, our immediate supervisor, or even our supervisor just flat tells us to stop? Stop doing the work because it's unnecessary, or someone's complained, or it's not our job responsibility. What if a friend tells us they think it's really those social justice warriors who are the bigots, and basically say our passion is wrong, trying to do the right thing is morally questionable? What happens when we really try our best? We did the research, we talked to lots of people of different perspectives, we're ready to get rolling, and our plans get turned down? What happens when we earnestly share a real concern and the people around the table tune out, check their phones and emails, and just don't listen? What happens when community members lash out, make nasty phone calls or emails that how dare we raise a rainbow flag during Pride Month? How dare we recognize an Islamic or Jewish or Hindu or other religious holiday on social media? What happens when, despite our hard work and initial success, nationally and internationally, we see ideals of democracy roll back, and it feels like we're holding a bucket against a tsunami? I say all these not to provide easy solutions. I provide these so we all know what can and does happen in this work. All jobs have their challenges, all efforts have their tripping points. These are some common ones for equity. Finally, the work gets harder. As we become more familiar with equity, as we get more confident and competent, we are put in a position to tackle bigger and more complex challenges. I've yet to find a professional in this line of work who says it gets easier. Sure, some lessons, some challenges become a cakewalk with enough practice, but there's always new and bigger hurdles, higher mountain peaks up ahead. And I wouldn't go back even if I could. I want to finish this video on a positive note. Yes, it's hard. We may end up losing a colleague or acquaintance. We may end up having to move on from an organization. We may lose again and again and again until we get a win. And that's also life. Not everyone we meet becomes a lifelong friend. Few of us stay in a single organization forever, and it's far less common than it was. And the best of us learn more from failure than success, and it pays off long term to just plain lose now and then. In spite of the warnings, because of the warnings, I think it's worth it to take action, and I hope you do too. And if you're still here, up next we'll do just that. Take action.